Have you ever wondered if destiny truly tests us? If, in a flash, a single decision could change not just your life, but that of a helpless creature? Get ready, because what you're about to witness today is something beyond comprehension. I guarantee it'll make you feel things you didn't even know you needed to feel. A story so pure, so impactful, it's impossible not to cry. Imagine the sprawling wilderness, the wind carrying the scent of damp earth and the promise of life, yet danger lurking in every shadow. It's in this grand setting that our tale begins, with a situation so desperate it's hard to believe. A park ranger, an ordinary man with extraordinary courage, was about to do the unbelievable, something even the most seasoned wildlife experts wouldn't dare attempt. He saved a helpless cub, but the rescue itself isn't the only thing that will leave you speechless. What happened to this pair years later shocked the entire world, proving that true bonds form in the most unlikely moments. And you, have you ever felt that jolt when life throws a challenge bigger than you? That moment your heart pounds and every cell in your body screams for a decision? Our ranger, that day, was about to face just that, with an innocent life depending on his bravery. If you love emotional animal stories, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our chronicles. Because what we're about to reveal is the first step of a journey that will grip you from start to finish, a living lesson in compassion and heroism you'll never forget. Our stage is a treacherous cliff where an icy breeze whips your face, and the cries of birds of prey echo, a stark warning of danger. And there, on a tiny ledge, isolated from the world and his family, was a small being who would soon become the star of one of the most beautiful rescue stories ever told. Life in myth. The savannah is a constant ballet between hunter and hunted, a dance governed by nature's most ancient laws. And it was in this relentless rhythm that our little protagonist found himself in deep trouble. He was just a lion cub, those distinct dark spots camouflaging him in the tall grass. Still clumsy on his paws, yet with the hunter's instinct already bubbling. Do you believe curiosity can be both a blessing and a curse all at once? Well, it led him to a challenge he should never have taken on. A wild goat, perhaps cannier than it appeared, showed up at the cliff's edge. For a cub, that was an irresistible invitation to adventure. The strong scent of the animal, the call of prey, a promise of youthful glory. Without a second thought, he launched into pursuit, driven by an energy only cubs possess. The chase was dizzying, the wind whistling in his ears, but the prey was swift and the terrain treacherous. Suddenly, the ground beneath his paws vanished, and there he was, on a narrow ledge, barely larger than a rug, with the abyss opening up beneath his curious, frightened eyes. The strong morning sun warmed the rock beneath his tiny paws, but a shiver ran through his small body. It was a point of no return, a dead end suspended in the air. If you've ever felt trapped with no way out, as if the ground might disappear beneath your feet, you know exactly what this cub was enduring. He tried to whimper, a small, desperate sound lost in the vastness of the valley. The scratching of his claws on the stone, a futile attempt to find grip, was the only sound besides the wind. A lioness mother, by the way, has such a fierce protective instinct she'd move mountains for her cubs. But the pride was far off, hunting elsewhere, unaware of the drama unfolding. How would he ever get out of there? Hours crawled by, and the cub's desperate whimpers faded into a hoarse, almost inaudible cry, carried away by the breeze swaying the dry grass at the clifftop. It seemed as if the universe had turned its back on that small creature. But like a whisper of fate, that faint sound reached the ears of someone accustomed to hearing nature's calls, the park ranger. He was a man of few words, but with keen perception, years of experience patrolling those wild lands. Have you ever noticed how some sounds, no matter how faint, manage to grab our attention in an inexplicable way? It felt like a sign, a premonition. He was on his daily rounds, the scent of freshly evaporated dew still lingering in the air, when a subtle lament, unlike any animal he knew from around there, reached his ears. Curious, and with the intuition of someone dedicated to protecting life, he followed the sound. As he neared the cliff's edge, the sight broke his heart. Down below, in that narrow crevice, was the lion cub, trembling with cold and fear, a tiny speck against the rock's immensity. A lion cub? Can you believe the luck or perhaps fate of him being there at that moment? The decision had to be quick, but the ranger's mind raced. The spot was dangerous. The wind buzzed in his ears like a warning. The rocks seemed ready to crumble. Many would argue to let nature take its course, that interfering would be an unnecessary risk. After all, lions are wild animals, and a rescue there would be sheer madness. But anyone who's ever had a pet, who's felt that unconditional bond, knows that compassion sometimes drives us to places reason would never dare to go. He knew he couldn't just turn his back. And would you have the courage to act like that, even facing such real and immediate danger? His heart pounded, not from fear, but from an urgency only those who truly care understand. He knew what he had to do. Without hesitation, he began to prepare his gear, each knot tightened with the precision of someone who intimately knows danger. The next step would be the most audacious of his life. With the rappelling gear properly adjusted and the rope firmly anchored, the park ranger took a deep breath, feeling the thin, crisp air of the altitude fill his lungs. The metallic smell of damp earth mixed with the strong scent of nylon ropes told him there was no turning back. He was about to launch himself into the void, hanging by mere inches of rope over an abyss that seemed to swallow every sound. Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching anticipation when you're about to do something grand yet terrifying? That's precisely what he felt. The descent began. Slowly, meter by meter, he pulled away from the safety of the top. The wind, once just a breeze, now roared with fury, whipping his clothes and trying to slam him against the rock face. Every movement was calculated, each foot searching for a tiny grip in the rock's cracks. A fascinating fact about rappelling, it demands incredible coordination and strength, especially in adverse conditions like these. One wrong step, one slip, and all would be lost. His mind was laser-focused on his objective, that little lion cub below, waiting for a miracle dot. As he drew closer, the cub's silhouette became clearer. His meow, once a whisper, was now a loud cry of pure terror. The ranger knew he had to be quick, but also gentle. Even cubs, despite being lions, are wild animals and can react with fear and aggression if they feel threatened. He needed to convey trust without words, just through his calm presence. The tense silence, broken only by the ropes. Friction and the wind was almost palpable. You can feel the tension in the air, can't you? The next move would be the most delicate of all the turning point of this story of heroism. With his feet firm, but carefully positioned on the ledge, the park ranger was finally just a few feet from the lion cub. The sweet, wild scent of the little feline filled the air, a mix of fear and innocence. The cub's gaze, previously fixed on the abyss, now turned to the human giant invading his last refuge. If you've ever tried to approach a frightened animal, you know how crucial every movement, every intention is. It's as if they can sense the vibration of your soul. The ranger, in a calm, soft voice, began to speak to the cub, not threateningly, but with a soothing coo. He extended his hand slowly, without sudden movements, showing an open palm, a universal sign of peace. The small creature recoiled slightly, his body trembling, his wild instinct screaming danger. But there was something in the man's eyes, a compassion so genuine that the cub seemed to hesitate. Do you believe the language of the heart can transcend species barriers? He knew he had to act fast. With practiced movements, he retrieved the rescue sling, a sturdy canvas bag designed for animal transport. The cub, though scared, didn't react aggressively, which was a good sign. Lions, for example, despite being formidable predators, are creatures of habit and can be surprisingly docile when they feel safe. In one swift, gentle motion, the ranger managed to secure the cub and carefully lift him into the sling. The weight of the small body in his hands was a relief, mixed with the profound awareness of the fragile life he held. That meow, once terror-filled, now sounded like a grumble of acceptance, almost a sigh. The most perilous part was done, but the journey was far from over. How would they get out of there? With the lion cub finally secured in the sling, tied firmly to his body, the park ranger felt a mix of relief and a fresh wave of tension. The scent of wet stone and moss clung to his clothes, and every tug on the rope made his muscles protest. The descent had been a challenge, but the climb, with the added weight and accumulated fatigue, would be an even greater test of endurance. Have you ever been in a situation where the worst seemed over, but the hardest part was still to come? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? He signaled to his team at the top, 2 fellow rangers waiting with bated breath, and began the slow, exhausting process of ascent. Each pull on the rope was a monumental effort. The sun was already starting its decline, painting the sky with orange hues, and he knew he couldn't waste time. The afternoon breeze brought cooler air, but sweat streamed down his face, mixing with the dust from the rocks. Inside the sling, the cub, once terrified, was now quiet. The gentle sway of the climb, and perhaps the proximity to the rangers. Body heat seemed to have a calming effect. It's incredible how animals can sense our intentions, don't you think? An interesting fact: lion cubs are born blind and entirely dependent, making their vulnerability even greater. With every meter they climbed, hope grew, but the ranger's mind remained on high alert. One tiny mistake could mean disaster for both of them. The team at the top pulled with all their might, their faces contorted with shared effort. Would one man's courage and a team's strength be enough to defy gravity and the danger nature imposed? The answer was just a few feet away, with the sun, nearly touching the horizon, painting the sky a deep purple. The tension at the cliff top was almost palpable. Every inch of rope being pulled was watched with anxious eyes. The scent of adrenaline hung in the air, mixed with the fresh smell of the low-lying vegetation growing in the rock crevices. It felt as if time had stopped, frozen in that instant, of pure hope. Have you ever felt that every second counts when something truly momentous is about to happen? Suddenly, the park ranger's head appeared over the edge, followed by his exhausted but triumphant body. Right behind him, safely enclosed in the sling, came the little lion cub, sound and safe. A collective sigh of relief escaped the team's lips, almost muffling the soft sound of the ranger's boots touching firm ground. He unfastened his harness with hands trembling from exhaustion and, with almost reverent care, placed the sling on the ground. His heart pounded, a rhythm of pure triumph. Adrenaline still surged through his veins, but the sight of the unharmed cub was the best reward. While lions are wild, this kind of interaction highlights the complexity of their nature and how resilient they can be. The ranger knelt and opened the sling, revealing the cub, who whimpered softly, perhaps in protest at being jostled, or maybe in a tiny sign of gratitude. He looked at the ranger with those big, innocent eyes, and for a moment, the danger, the effort, everything seemed worth it. The golden twilight bathed the scene, a moment of silent heroism that would be etched in everyone's memory. But this little lion's story was far from over, and destiny still held a big surprise. A week had passed since that dramatic rescue day. The lion cub, who had been carefully nurtured and bottle-fed by the rangers. A sight that would melt anyone's heart, with the warm scent of milk in the air, was now strong enough to attempt rejoining his family. The park ranger, who had risked his own life for him, felt a bittersweet mix of joy and a slight pang of longing. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to say goodbye to someone you've helped, even when you know it's the right thing to do? It's a connection that forms, no matter what. He took the cub to an area near where the pride had been sighted, hiding behind a dense bush, smelling the damp morning grass. The anticipation was palpable. Would the cub be accepted back? Lions, powerful predators though they are, have a complex social structure, and acceptance into the pride is crucial for a cub's survival. Lion cubs, for example, are raised in groups, and every female in the pride helps care for all the young, making their return even more vital. The ranger watched silently as the little lion hesitantly walked towards the group. Suddenly, an adult lioness, likely the mother, caught the familiar scent. Her eyes widened, and a soft roar, almost a reunion call, echoed. The other pride members approached, curious, sniffing and licking the cub as if he had never left. It was a spectacle of pure wild compassion, living proof that family love transcends barriers. Who isn't moved by a scene like that? It seemed as if every lion understood the miracle that had occurred, the courage that had brought the little one back to his home in nature. That moment of acceptance, the cub snuggling against his mother, was the true reward for all the danger faced. And so, the story of the lion cub and the park ranger comes to its conclusion, but the lessons it leaves us echo far beyond the savannas. What we witnessed was not just a spectacular rescue. It was a vivid reminder of our interconnectedness with all forms of life. The act of pure courage by that man, throwing himself into the abyss for a life not of his own kind, transcends ordinary. Heroism. He shows us that true compassion has no limits or barriers, whether of size, species, or danger. Have you ever paused to consider how a single act of kindness can have such a profound impact? This chronicle is a mirror for ourselves, an invitation to reflect on the small and large acts of heroism we can perform in our daily lives. Perhaps it's not a lion cub on a cliff, but it could be a neighbor needing help, a friend at a difficult moment, or even a stray animal in distress. Wildlife teaches us so much about perseverance and the importance of community, of reunion and acceptance. Lions, for instance, demonstrate that the strength of the group guarantees the survival of each individual, a principle that applies perfectly to our own lives. This story reminds us that, in a world that often seems chaotic and indifferent, there are still people who rise up, who extend a hand or a rope, and who prove that hope is an unshakable force. Who hasn't felt that an animal understands our very soul and gives us the chance to be better? May this story inspire each of us to seek our own courage, to cultivate our compact soul, and to understand that, by saving one life in a way, we save a piece of our own humanity. If this story warmed your heart and made you reflect on the power of kindness, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional chronicles like this. And have you ever had an animal that changed your life or witnessed an unforgettable act of heroism? Tell us in the comments. Your experience can inspire many people. And to continue this journey of emotion and connection with nature, the next video suggested by YouTube will move you even more. Don't miss it.